Well, I was just doing it for a minute.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning. It's Feng
Good
Shui
morning.
Friday with Anita, wherever she is, and
I'm here.
Cheryl.
I'm here.
Yay! I know you're here. I'm trying to point. There. Cheers.
Oh, yeah. You can never know where you're pointing on this thing, right?
Cheers. How's everybody doing Friday?
Oh, Friday. Woohoo. It's Friday again.
It's Friday already. Like I
Already
swear,
again.
the revolutions on this earth are speeding up.
Yes, they totally are. And you know what? I was thinking, I'm always thinking.
And I'm throwing cards all over the place.
Yeah, throw some cards. What's interesting is that, we've had a lot of new people join us on
Yay!
our Facebook group here,
Yay.
Feng Shui with
Yay,
Anita and Cheryl.
yay.
So we want to say thank you and welcome. And we also, if you kind of have ever wondered what that image is that's on our Facebook group, and you just see a bunch of toes in the sand, and you're probably thinking, what the heck does that have to do with Feng Shui?
Exactly.
And so we just, want to share with you again that Cheryl and I, pre the pause, we're going to call it, we were traveling, and we had the opportunity in 1 week to dip our toes in the Pacific Ocean when we were in California. And 3 days later, we dipped our toes in the Atlantic Ocean when we were in Miami, Florida.
Yay.
And it was so much fun because we were energetically connecting the West Coast with the East Coast. And, we just imagined we were putting a little bubble around everything. And the synchronicity of us just deciding, right? That was the big thing. We decided we wanted to do that. And then once we made the decision, then everything just kind of opened up. And it was so much fun. And that really is the power of Feng Shui. When you make the decision to, whether it's to declutter, when you make the decision to enhance your environment and make it more comfortable and pleasing for you, whatever decision, when you make the decision to do something, boom, things just start to fly in.
Well, and I think one of those decisions too is actually even just becoming curious. It starts with that, right? It starts with being curious. What does this possession, right? What effect could it be having on me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's just so many things.
Right. So the curiosity is big.
Yeah.
All right. So there's our card.
Okay. And so every week, our topic of the week, we never know what the heck we're going to talk about until Cheryl pulls a card from the Feng Shui Paradise card deck from our teacher, mentor, Tara Catherine Collins. And then, we wear these funny glasses because, again, it's just bringing the awareness to start to see things energetically. Everything is alive with energy, with frequency, and it's affecting us.
Absolutely.
And I have to take them off because these are for sunshine.
I'll take mine off in a minute. I got butterflies on mine, and they're really quite cutie. And so, they're affecting us too.
They're probably interfering.
Interfering.
It's interfering.
It's all good. All right.
Okay, I'm gonna put something stronger in my coffee. I'll be right back.
No, please don't. All right. So the card that flew out is number 24.
24.
The stove.
Ooh, the stove. Oh, I like that.
I do too. I'm going to take these off so I can actually, let me put some other glasses on so I can see and clearly. Ah, there we go.
I can see clearly now. The rain is gone.
Chi clearly. I can chi
clearly. Once in a while. I can chi clearly now. The rain is gone.
There you go.
Okay. The stove.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the stove.
Other than mine needs some attention.
Yeah.
That's probably why it came up.
The stove really is, it's kind of the hub of the kitchen, because that is the piece of equipment that serves us every day, in that it helps to cook the nourishing meal to nourish our bodies. And in traditional feng shui, they actually consider the stove to be anchoring the family's wealth in the home. Okay. So if the burners don't all work properly, then you want to get them fixed. If the oven, maybe the light bulb in the oven is burnt out, or, you always want to make sure that your stove is in good repair, because, it is anchoring the wealth in the home in a sense, right? Even though we might not always consider that wholeheartedly in essential feng shui. But when we think about our health is our wealth, right? And we need that piece of equipment every day to cook those nourishing foods, then yeah, it makes sense, right? And then there's also that thing about the reflection or amplifying the energy, right? So what's that all about, Cheryl?
Amplifying the energy of what's happening in the kitchen, in the home, right? The stove is also the fire element, and along with all our appliances in the kitchen. So this just popped into my head, so I wanted to bring it up while I could talk, and we can go back to what you were just talking about. When you have a lot of the appliances out, so say you're one of the people that has your toaster oven out and your toaster out and your coffee maker out and your mix master out, and then you've got your fridge and you've got your stove. That's a lot of fire energy in the kitchen. And take note and see if when there's confrontations or heated discussions, if they tend to happen in the kitchen. Because that fire energy can draw it in. So and the colors of them. So red was hot for a while. Red is also a fire element. So that's enhancing the fire element in the kitchen. So we want to bring some balance into the kitchen so it's a little calmer. Anyway, we can go back to what you were just talking about. Sorry, Anita.
Well, you know what? And it stems back to that as the fire element. And so when we see fire in its natural environment, whether it's, if you have an outdoor fire or something like that, the flames are flickering and they're constantly moving and they want to consume, right? Flames consume anything in their path. And so too much, like you said, too much of that fire element, it starts to, it sucks the oxygen, or it sucks the chi out of the room, right? So good point, good observation to see what happens in your kitchen. And maybe there is too much fire energy sucking that chi out. And then in that case, what do we use to put out the flames? We use water, right? And so again, water shows up in different forms as a water element in feng shui. But yeah, if we look at the fire element, the burners themselves produce fire, right? And so they have the ability to amplify or double the energy. And going back to the stove being considered the anchoring the wealth of the home, then, think about it that way, that it has the potential to double or magnify or amplify that energy. Hence, we want to make sure everything's in great working order.
And balance. So another thing that popped into my head when you were talking about that, I know for our own house, there's a lot of things in the kitchen that get tossed. So if you're looking at it from a financial perspective, from money that gets burnt up, I wonder what the connection is, and this is just me thinking out loud, to that being amplified if the fridge maybe, or you tend to have a lot of products that are thrown away. So the stove is the wood or the fire element. Fruits and vegetables are actually part of the wood element that feeds the fire. So where is the introspection? Where is the balance between what we throw away that in essence is getting burnt up by the fire?
Right. And again, you know, the fridge itself, whether, you know, because it's electronic, is also a fire energy.
Right.
And again, it could be the fact of just having to balance some of those elements in the kitchen to tone down that fire element so that we are not burning up or using, throwing away waste, you know, all of that. And yeah, so definitely you want to add some water element in the kitchen.
Great.
So I have in my kitchen, I have a nice little water fountain in the corner, and it sits on a crystal glass plate. And so anything that is glass, mirrors,
reflective,
are considered a water element. Anything in the dark colors that we would see in the depths of the ocean, like the dark black and the, you know, the real deep colors. And so it could even just be, you know, to hang a towel on your stove that is of a water element.
Exactly.
Just something, just it's like acting like a little waterfall. Yeah.
And then again, all of this also depends on where your kitchen is in your bagua.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because for some people, it could be in the heart of the home. For me, for us, it's in fame and recognition.
But again, in traditional feng shui,
right,
you know, the stove is considered anchoring the wealth for the family. And that, you know, that goes back to all of our indigenous cultures.
Right.
And when you think of pre-Roman time, even, because the Romans, you know, they kind of mess things up with their architecture and all that. But prior to that,
but we appreciate them doing that because we now live in rectangular houses.
Yeah. So, you know, prior to that, everything was kind of, you know, we had more rounded spaces. And the stove or the cooking, you know, obviously it wasn't a stove back then, but it was, you know, the fire area was in the center of that home.
Right.
And it was the gathering place. It was the place to come together. It was the place to not only cook the food, but perhaps, you know, warm your body, or, and of course, radiating out from the center part of the home, you know, having the stove in the center, just kind of radiated out into the whole space of the home.
The warmth, the heat, right? As well as the nutrition. Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it really is an important piece of equipment to have in good working order. Okay.
Excellent. So now the card was number 24. So again, for those that are maybe new to our channel or new to our Facebook group, Feng Shui with Anita and Cheryl, we also talk a little bit about numerology. Anita has a lot of knowledge in numerology. I'm learning and gaining knowledge in numerology from those around me, including her. So we take the number, in this case, the 24, and we combine it so that we get one number most of the time, unless it happens to be a double digit. So the 2 and the 4 become the 6.
And yeah, and the 6 is about, you know, it's really about that, our connectedness. And I think, you know, I'm not sure what Marilyn's going to say in the double digit book, but I'm going to say, because the shape of the 6, because the circle is on the bottom, it's about our being more grounded and anchored and connected to the source energy, excuse me, of our Mother Earth, and, you know, going up into that, into the higher realm, and connecting us, you know, to our spiritual metaphysical aspect as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the 6 definitely is considered more a spiritual number, more vibrating in that energy.
Cool. Well, from the Double Digitology book, Marilyn Harper, Joey Roby, Adironda's version of the 6 is the shape of the 6 is pregnancy. So expectation, birthing new opportunities, pregnant with new ideas, just waiting to be born. The new energy is what it talks about a lot. For the 6 is about paying attention to your material possessions to see if you are owning them or they're owning you. And I find that quite interesting because we talk about possessions and the root word being possess in our 21-day decluttering challenge. We talk about that quite often. So I find that entertaining. And even in our Get Work Done from Home programs, I share a story with a rug that possessed me. So yeah. I want to tie it back to the stove. So this number is coming up talking about the stove and new expectations and the stove possessing us. And I know when I was doing kitchen design, people considered the stove, but very little in the design, unless they were adamant. If they were adamant and came in, they were the people that wanted a natural gas stove and it had to have 6 burners, and they were very specific. But the majority of people that were getting a kitchen designed were focused around the island being the hub. And I find that quite interesting.
Yeah, so I think in our modern day culture, you know, the stove really is an item of functionality, right? Everybody, you know, they don't even consider, like you said, Cheryl, they don't consider the design or the aesthetic part of the stove. Very few people do, because it's something that we need to have in our home because, you know, we don't cook on the open fire anymore.
Yeah, it's a necessity. And we've also gone to a lot of delivery. So there's a lot of homes that do very little cooking. And there's nothing wrong with it, like whatever works for you. The second point that Adironda shares in here that I wanted just to read this one as well is the 6 is about being a good caretaker of your possessions, your home, your car, your clothes, as well as your relationships.
Love it.
Yeah, very interesting. So the 6 is about being pregnant with expectation and birthing new things and new ideas. And
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
That shape, right? So there's all kinds of numerology out there. This is Adironda numerology, where she talks a lot about the shape of the numbers. So cool.
Love it. Okay. So when we see that number 6, then we'll know that, you know what, it's about that, you know, maybe it's talking about, again, those worldly possessions, you know, connecting to the physical space of nature. You know, Mother Nature is always holding us, just kind of like we are her children, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
it.
And in the heart of the home. So it goes back to the center, right? Like you were just talking about. That's part of the, she talked actually last night on the double digit, which was the 9-9. So it depends on when you're watching this. The 9-9 of 2021 is actually a 5. Anyway, but she talked about the 9 and turning it, right? So the 9 opposite is the 6. And the 9 is also about the completion and the ending of a cycle. But if you do it on side, you kind of wind up with the number 10, which is a new beginning connecting to the all being, God and spirit. So it was very interesting last night.
Yeah. And you know what? We're always being spoken to through numbers, through signs.
Absolutely.
And so it's always great to have that awareness of what they mean. And then you can just stop for a moment and say, okay, well, what message is that for me today in this moment?
Exactly.
And it might give you some insight so that you can go dip your feet, in the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, or, do something crazy and fun.
Exactly. And maybe you've been thinking about starting something new. And then in the next week, you see the 6 pop up a few times. Let us know. Come back and let us know in the chat window what new ideas have come to you. What new concepts are you birthing? Love to hear about it.
Or new opportunities.
New opportunities.
Or whatever.
You betcha. Yeah. Cool. Well, that is a wrap for Feng Shui Friday. Woohoo. Let's take them out with a little bit.
Thanks for joining us, and put on your Feng Shui eyes and start to see things from an energetic viewpoint.
Absolutely.
And see what happens.
And have an expective week.